We have previously teased this case, or a version of this case. We're now going to get into an adventure, building a small SFX system into it, and then grow from SFX to an additional graphics card, an additional cooler, then maybe something to do with mini home server in your desk setup, and we're going to work through. We're going to experiment and see how far we can push this particular case or this particular case setup. This is a case from InWin. It's part of their ModFree series. And ModFree series is basically, well, it's free for you to do whatever you want to do, as long as you buy all the different components and join them together. Generally speaking, the way that they set up these systems is it kind of goes from a base station like this. So this is the ModFree number 3. So that refers to a full height. They also have a 2/3 size of this, which is going to be a mod 2. And what you can do is you can take this system, you can take off the side panels, for example, and add an additional one on the side, and another one, and another one, whether it's the full size one or a shorter one, and you can keep going both ways. Then you can basically expand the bottom and you just grow it like that. We might go a bit crazy, and we'll see what we can do with it. It is limiting in its own little chassis as it is right now. But the moment you start adding extras, as long as you have long enough cables, I feel we can go kind of insane. So let's get into it, and we're going to start with the basics. So the first build is going to be SFX. So we've got the components here, so we're going to be a full-size power supply, and it's going to be our building blocks. We've got the full-size power supply from InWin, which is their PII series. This is a 1300 watt power supply. Then we have a B650 motherboard with an AMD Ryzen 7 7900 non-X, so it's a low power chip, but in a build like this, I think that's going to be quite perfect. It's going to be 12 cores. Then we've got some DDR5 RAM, we got PCIe Gen 4 SSD, and we have a cooler. This cooler, technically speaking, is a little bit too big for this case. I believe it's about 2 millimeters taller than the maximum height is allowed in this case. But we have a few tricks up our sleeve. We'll see if we can fit it in the base build, or if we're going to have to use it later on when we do an expansion. For the expansion, we're planning to later on install a cooler, probably on one side, and we're going to expand the graphics card as well. So we'll have a riser cable and install the graphics card as well. So that's what the start is. And I feel this is going to be a multi-part series, but let's get into it. I'm going to start with just taking it apart and start populating it with loads of components. Most of the panels just come off and they just have these retention clips in place. They just remove easily. The base also comes off, so we'll do so at the back, the front. So just fully take it apart. And then we're going to slide this forward and take it out. As you can see, the frame itself is very light. It's just when you add all the additional components, it gets pretty heavy. What we should be able to do is install a power supply in this spot here, a motherboard over here, and then we actually have this middle section for hard drives if we wanted to use them. And one of the later builds will have an ability to use extra one of these or two of these boxes to install a bunch of drives. We'll show you what you can do. So I feel that something like this could become your both home PC and maybe even an SSD server. I think I should start with the power supply. InWin has an app to accommodate with this build. They basically built out an app where you can literally select an individual component and see what fits in it and how you should install it. I wish they had a bit more detail and the ability to kind of show different variants, but they covered you with the basics, you know, the hard drives, the storage, the motherboard, kind of building out an ITX system, or, you know, installing a graphics card and so on. So they give you the basics and you can actually experiment from there. The only problem is you kind of rely on videos like this to give you an understanding of what's actually possible in terms of compatibility, because it is kind of complex. For the cables, we're going to need to use, you know, the normal motherboard cable, CPU cables. So depending on your motherboard, you might need two of these. I think we only need one of them. So that's going to be just these two here, because it is an ITX system, so it's pretty simple. Normally speaking, on an older systems, you had to use 2 or 3 of these PCIe cables. the cables to power your graphics card. I know people don't really like the new cable, but come on, this, or we're using 3 of these in an ITX build, I'm gonna take this every single time. This is so much easier to control. And this power supply, if needed, can support 2 of them. So you can actually install 2 of these high power cables. So hopefully 5090 is not using 1000 watts, but we'll see. To install the power supply, we need to take this further apart. So we're taking off these little thumb screws for this little bracket here. So that comes out. Then we have 4 screws holding the PC, they're holding the power supply bracket, and it slides out. Now what we need to do, just mount the power supply inside of it. So we will probably go this way for the power supply air to be exhausted that way. With the bracket on, which basically put it back in, into the little groove, and then just secure it in place. Right, the power supply is in. As you can see, you have a little groove here, so you can actually route your cables. So you can put your power supply cable and you can route it around, depending where your top and bottom is going to be. And now we're going to install the motherboard. So let's get these cables out of the way. So we're using an MSI B650. This is an AM5 motherboard. It's got everything you need. It's got SSDs. It's quite small. I like the fact that it's actually got a limited amount of vertical components. Makes it easier to work with. So we've got the CPU. Retention bracket open. Find a little triangle. Compare with the triangles on top. Drop it down, secure it, keep the little plastic cover for the future. Next is the SSD. So in this case, the SSD is actually below this heatsink. Straight in, and this is because it's an older board. It doesn't have a little plastic, like a little screw straight away. You need to. There's a screw inside the box. I do like this little feature on the newer boards, where it just has a little clicky plastic screw or a little retention bracket. Yep. Nice and secure. Now we could install the RAM now, but I actually want to figure out the cooler first. That's going to be more important because the cooler might be a little bit in the way first. So here we have a Thermalright AXP 120. This is the X67 model, which refers to 67 mil in height. I believe the maximum height capacity for the cooler in this case is 65. So we're gonna see if it fits. We're gonna be pushing it a bit. But let's give it a go. One thing I really like about it, it has a big fan. It's a full-size 120 mil fan. And what happens is you've got this massive cooler that is the same size. It's got 6 heat pipes. A bunch of components here. Little fan controllers, fan headers, little fan holders. I do like to have the different colors for different components. It's nice. For the AMD cooler, it's actually very simple. First of all, you use the little standoffs, which are in red, the AMD red. They have AM4 written on them, and the brackets themselves also have AM4 written on them. AM4 and AM5 in this case is same because, well, AMD hasn't changed the design, which is very nice. So you remove the existing ones, you screw these on, and now we can put on some thermal paste, a little bit, a little blob, and we can spread it around. For the cooler itself, they pointed in the manual to, first of all, don't do what I've done before, remove the sticker. They actually pointed towards the RAM, but what you see here is that might interfere with the RAM. So what we're going to do, I'm going to install the RAM to ensure that I know what the situation is. If I install it here, yeah, it's already touching. So I think I need to flip it the other way. And I think it fits okay this way. Well, we had the bracket installed incorrectly, so just going to flip it around. They need to be pointing towards the CPU, not away from it.
which is an easy fix. Just 2 screws on each side. Make them tight. And try the cooler again. So we go back on. There you go, I can feel it touching the screws now. Once you've put one side on, the other side will be a little bit harder because it has little springs in there. And if we look very closely on this side, this is touching, the paper is touching both sides. It's that thin. It's paper thin. I feel proud about that. But yeah, it's super close. You can see there's a tiny little gap in between. So it fits perfectly on this bit. Now, we need to install the fan, put it on, and it just clicks in here. So it just sits there in place. And then the cable itself for the cooler. On the inside, next to the RAM, you can see the top one is the CPU header. You can put the cable inside and hide it underneath there. That's our cooler installed. We've got the CPU, we got the RAM, we got the SSD inside. We're sorted here. Now, that needs to go into the system. Let's put it inside. Oh, I see where the problem is with it. Oh, wow. It's right here. So those 2mm is right here. So I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm just gonna. So if the cooler was satisfyingly thin, this was actually needed a bit of caressing into the right spot. But it fits and the fan spins no problem. When we put the top cover on later on, that's not going to be obstructed at all. So we're perfectly inside. The only caveat here is I actually cannot reach the screw hole for the top right of the motherboard. But it's okay because we can still screw in 3 spots. It's a micro ITX, it's not going to go anywhere. I'll start doing the cable routing and then we can come back to the next stage. So the cabling is all in place now. It's pretty simple because there's so much space. The case itself, as you can see here, because we haven't got any storage inside, about 1/3 of it is just empty. And that's what allows the big power supply and the long cables to basically hide without any problems. One observation I do have, and it's a little bit annoying. So at the top side, the CPU cable over here, there is this cutout, but the cutout is a little bit smaller than the cable itself. So the connector won't fit through here, which is a little bit frustrating because basically what I need to do now is kind of route it across and down. But they do have nice cutouts across here and nice way of routing the cable. They even have a little dash here where you can kind of put the cables behind. But because both cables need to go from this angle, it's not enough for all the cables, the CPU and the 24-pin. They do have things like these little retention locations. So you can install the cable tie that comes with the case and, tightly bring them down. And there's a bunch of places for tie down points, here. But because of the size of this, it doesn't really matter because you can just leave the cables around it and they'll be hidden. Plus, this case does not come with a glass panel. It looks nice from the outside by just being covered, so you don't need to worry about it too much. Since this is all built, let's put all the panels on and test it out together. So we'll start with the base. So the base just goes in front. And for the base, you see it has these 2 little screws. That's to hold it down in place. And what you can do then is just screw it all together to the base using the little hole here. Throw it down into the holes and slide them in. Now the base is secure. That looks nice. Even though the cables are kind of sticking out here, it looks like it might not fit, but that's not a problem. The way that they've designed this case, the case side panel actually holds the cables in place if needed. It's not a big deal. We do have loads of space inside. If we really wanted to, we can reroute the cables and they'll fit just fine. The other side is nice and simple. Come over. And so we have the top, which is just a simple panel. It has the little logo here, so you can decide which do you want it at the front or the back. It's completely up to you. And again, it just goes on, it just clicks on. Then we have the front. Finally, with a nice button rather than a little sketchy plug. And lastly, we have the back. Put you through, and it's all covered. Because the motherboard is exposed at the back, your cables will be just sticking out the back. So you're gonna have to cable manage them yourself, whichever way you prefer. I think it can look a bit messy, so especially if you have like antennas and stuff, but it's not the worst. You put some cable ties and just kind of route them down, and it'll be out of the way. The other thing to consider with this case, right now, what we have is we got the power supply sucking air from this side, and the CPU is sucking in air from this side. In this configuration, it's best to have it vertical, because you're gonna have basically air coming through on both sides. But this case does not have to be vertical. You can actually put it down inside your TV console and lay it flat. In that example, what you might want to do is take the power supply and flip it over so you have all the intake coming from one side and blowing out the sides. Since this design is only half filled, they do also have a 3/4 size, which is shorter. We'll use that little kit later on. You could easily have this smaller because in our example, we're not using any hard drives, so we have this empty spot. So if you wanted to, you could actually make this smaller and it would fit in even more consoles or whatever you want to use it. To be honest, it looks nice on the desk as well. I like this wooden accent and it seems to perform well, but we'll test that out in a bit. We'll check for thermals and also noise levels. That all will be done in the second video. The second video is going to be going through the results as well as showing how to expand and install a water cooler as well as a graphics card. And then we'll see what else we can expand there. So leave your comments below of what you would like to see us test. And we'll see you guys in the next video.